Allah is my heart's speech, your mercy is what I beseech. Keep in my heart your remembrance, and in your deen allow me to advance. Help me in my quest, permit me to pass the ultimate test. Help me in my quest, permit me to pass the ultimate.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We have a number of questions that had been sent to me through the email. So until you start your phone calls, we will try to address as many as possible from them. The first question is from Alma, and she sent 3 questions. I chose only 2 from them, and the third I will answer that personally, insha'Allah Azza wa Jal. She says, if a person does not pronounce the letter Qaf correctly in prayer, but says it in a manner that the letter can be understood by others, is that okay? Well, to answer this question, we have to understand that it is not only the letter Qaf that it is difficult to non-Arabs. There are a number of letters as well, such as the letter Dad. When you say غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ, and a lot of the non-Arab speaking would probably say مَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ or وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ, and they transform and change the letter into another letter. So what's the ruling on that? First of all, if they are capable of saying the letter properly, then their prayer is invalid. Why is that? Because they deliberately changed the letter of the Quran, which was revealed in the Arabic language, and it will remain Arabic. Therefore, you have to pronounce the letters correctly, if you are able to do this. And this is possible for people when they put some effort into it, when they train themselves, when they do it over and over until they master it. And when you want to do something with the will of Allah, you can achieve that. If a person is unable to perfect or to pronounce the letters as they're supposed to be pronounced, then Allah Azza wa Jal would not burden people with something that they cannot bear. So if it is beyond your capability, you're unable, simple as that. Or it needs a month or 2 for you to master it and to practice it, but until that time comes, your prayer is valid, your prayer is correct, because this is your capability, this is the best you can do. However, you are not allowed to lead prayers where people praying behind you are better than you in your pronunciation, even if you know the Quran by heart. But there is an Arab or an non-Arab who can pronounce the Arabic letter correctly. It is not permissible for you to pray, that is, to lead the prayers, because you did not master the way to say and pronounce these letters. And so many times we go to non-Arab countries and we find the Imam leading the prayer to be a non-Arab, or even an Arab who does not pronounce the letters correctly. Instead of saying Alladhina, he says Allazina. Instead of saying Ja'a, he says Ga'a. So he used the colloquial and the dialect into the Quran, and this is not permissible at all, unless those behind him are as bad as he is or even worse. So if I go to a non-Muslim country and I find the people there are unable to pronounce it correctly, in this case it is permissible for him to lead the people, but not to lead someone who is an Arab or who is capable of pronouncing the letters properly. Therefore, to answer your question, if he is leading someone who is as bad as he is, or even worse, their prayer all are correct. If not, if he's leading someone who's better than him, this person who's better than him must lead the prayer, or he must pray on his own, because it is not permissible for him to allow someone who is unable to recite the Quran properly and altering the words, or altering the meaning, or altering the letters to lead the prayer. I think we have Brother Abu Safwan from Kuwait. Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. How are you?
I'm fine, alhamdulillah, jazakallah khair.
Okay, Sheikh, I have a question. This is a very embarrassing question, but I know I have to pose this to you. A Muslim, I know, he works in my building. He prays 5 times. He's a very good man. He approached me just about an hour before, and he said he works as a cleaner, and he is very much in need of money. And he told me that someone offered him to pay to walk his dog. So is this permissible? I told him, look, this is haram, this dog. So I don't know, but he is very much in need. So could you kindly advise me? So I can
he was approached by a man because he's in need of money, and he offered him this job, that is to walk his dog.
Yes.
And he's asking, what's the ruling on that?
Yes. Because he's a Muslim. He prays 5 times. He's a cleaner. He is in need of money because her parents back in Bangladesh, they are very sick.
Okay.
And so if somebody offered him this job in addition to cleaner job, so he said, he asked me, I said, I must ask someone else.
Okay.
So is it permissible for a Muslim to take this dog outside and get money?
And this person who owns the dog is not a Muslim?
No, yes, he is not Muslim.
I will address this. Any more questions, Abu Safwan?
That's all, Sheikh.
Okay. Jazakallah khair. Alaykum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Abu Safwan's question is very clear. What's the ruling on attending a dog, walking the dog? As you know, dogs are not like cats. You have to take them out so they can, they can do their 101 or 102. So what's the ruling on this Muslim boy or man who charges money for taking the dog for this non-Muslim to have this walk? First of all, it is a humiliating job. But when in times of necessity, you do not have the privilege to choose what you do and what not to do. Therefore, to raise a dog in a Muslim house, this is forbidden. Unless it is used, this dog, for hunting, or it's a shepherd dog, or it's for guarding a farm. Other than that, it is forbidden for a Muslim to keep a dog. And the Prophet ﷺ told us that whoever keeps a dog in his house, Allah would reduce and take away his good deeds that are equivalent to the weight of Mount Uhud every single day. And this is 1 carat, the Prophet said, and the carat is equivalent to the weight of Mount Uhud. So I don't believe that we could have this much good deeds per day. Yet every single day this is deducted from our good deeds if we are keeping such a dog that is not legitimate for us to keep. Regardless, this dog is a German Shepherd, a Doberman, a Bulldog, or even a Chihuahua. It's a dog, and it prevents angels from entering your house. But for the question of Abu Safwan, he's asking about a man who's in need, and this man is not keeping the dog in his house. So he is simply taking the dog from the house of this non-Muslim and making his rounds and returning it, probably once in the morning and once in the evening. So what's the ruling on taking wages on such a thing? I personally believe that this is permissible, inshallah. Though keeping the dog in a Muslim house is forbidden, for this non-Muslim, this is permissible in his religion. Therefore, it's okay for him, and hence my work in taking this dog and taking him for a walk so that he could answer the call of nature and bringing him back, this does not, inshallah, involve any type of sin, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. Sister Alma had a second question, and she says, if a person has to place the palm of his hand on the floor during sujood, what is meant by the palm of the hand? Because the middle part of the hand may not actually touch the floor. I'll answer this inshallah after I take the caller, Brother Abdullah from Nigeria. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Abdullah.
Wa alaikum assalam. How are you doing, Sheikh?
I'm fine, Jazakallah khair. What's your question, bro?
Please, I have a question. My question is it permissible for a Muslim, is it permissible in Islam for a Muslim to watch the game of wrestling on TV?
To watch what?
The game of wrestling on TV, wrestling.
I did not, I heard to watch and I heard TV. But what is the material to be watched?
Wrestling.
Wrestling, okay.
Yeah. Is it permissible for a Muslim to watch it?
Okay, I will answer this inshallah, brother.
All right, thank you very much.
Hayyakallah. Brother Abdullah is asking about ruling on watching wrestling. Well, unfortunately, this is an addiction. And if I would promote or demote this a bit, I would say this is an illness that a lot of the Muslims and non-Muslims have been hooked to. It is answering their trend to violence. It's like the Romans used to do in their Colosseums when they used to get gladiators and fighters, and they would throw them with lions and tigers and watch the blood all over the place. This is what, unfortunately, the civilized, so-called civilized people enjoy. Wrestling is the same thing. People enjoy seeing two people beat the hell out of each other. And the ruling on watching wrestling, Islamically, is that we have to go through looking into the rules that govern this program, for example. First of all, what's the ruling on watching semi-nude men on TV? Answer is haram. Most of them wear tights, most of them wear things that reveal their awrah, short pants or whatever, and all of this is haram. So it's not permissible for you as a man to watch someone else's awrah exposed and displayed in so many different poses. Second of all, as Muslims, what do we gain from watching wrestling? We know that 60 to 80% of it, it's all fabricated, it's all made like a movie. So it's not actual sports, not actually real. You find things are orchestrated in some form of a fashion or for just the sake of publicity and showing off. But what do you benefit as a Muslim from such programs? Nothing. You just enjoy seeing someone being beaten up. And thirdly, which is very dangerous, the Muslim youth would look up to these so-called celebrities. It's very unfortunate how this affects the Muslims worldwide. Just 5 or 6 days ago, I was in the masjid, and in front of me was a child, a Muslim, from this country, from the Holy Land, wearing a t-shirt saying John Cena. And this is astonishing. Lots of the children nowadays wear t-shirts with names of non-Muslim players, football players, Beckham, whatever the names are. There are plenty, but alhamdulillah, I don't know them all. And this is not proper for a Muslim to do, because we have the honor, the dignity, the pride of Islam. How would I hang the name of a non-Muslim at the back of my t-shirt, even if I don't recognize him or know him? Just the plain fact that his name is on my back shows you how weak the Muslims are. So now, when Muslims are hooked to these wrestling matches and each one supports this wrestler or the other and sometimes they talk about it as if it's something that is nice and something that is worthy of being watched. I believe that this is not permissible for a Muslim to waste his time doing something like that. I believe we have a caller from Canada. I did not get the name. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
My name is Zoya.
Zoya. Yes, Sister Zoya. What can I do for you?
Okay. I have 2 questions. My first question is that I heard one sheikh, he said that I can read the Waqia and for risk. And another sheikh, he said that you cannot read the Waqia for risk. So can you give me an authentic saying that I can read it?
I did not understand. You read 2 surahs that they contradict. The brothers in the control room, if you can turn off the headset, please.
Should we read the Waqia every day?
What's the question? I couldn't get it.
Should we read the Waqia for risk?
Should we recite Surah Al-Waqi'ah?
Yes.
And you think that Surah Al-Waqi'ah prevents poverty?
No. Yes.
Yeah, okay. And what's the second question?
And the second question is, if there's 1 minute before the Adhan, can you read Tahiyyat al-Masjid?
If you enter the masjid before the Adhan?
Yeah, only 1 minute before the Adhan.
Okay. Any more questions, Sister Zoya?
Yeah, Jazakallah.
Good, Jazaki. I'll answer this question, inshallah. Sister Zoya from Canada is asking about Surah Al-Waqi'ah and about Tahiyyat al-Masjid. And we will address her questions, inshallah, after the break, so stay tuned.
As everyone knows, today Arabic is considered as very important, very significant language. How can we produce the sound, the state of voicing, place of articulation, the manner of articulation? So in Arabic, the words which are written are pronounced.
We will learn how to write and pronounce Arabic letters correctly in depth. Explanation via board and presentation with many other important factors.
And we have today more than 300 million people speak Arabic language. Not only in the Middle East, but you can find a lot of people speak Arabic language in Asia, Europe, North America, and in South America.
What are you waiting for? Grab your notebook and pencil and stay tuned for Learn Arabic at Huda TV. Ark of Noah.
We're going to be mentioning the significance of the Ark of Noah. Knowledge is the essence of everything. Once you get the knowledge, then it generates the desire and the motivation, and then it brings about the action. And we're going to be discussing the state of the Ummah and the division which unfortunately has appeared in it, and the methodology of trying to arrive at the right path. Your system of knowledge or your system of motivation are hit by any of these threats, you will definitely go astray and you will be suffering from a disease in the heart. We're also going to be discussing what Allah wants from us. How can we make that? Allah gave us the revelation. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is addressing first and foremost the companions. If they believe in what you have believed in, then they are guided. So the real guidance is what the Prophet ﷺ and the companions were upon.
Join Sheikh Mutassim in the program Ark of Noah and discover the answers to these questions.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah and welcome back. Sister Zoya had 2 questions, and the first one was regarding Surah Al-Waqi'ah. A lot of the Muslims think that if you recite Surah Al-Waqi'ah every single night or once a day, then this would prevent you from poverty. And this is fabricated. This is not true. And otherwise, the 1.3 billion Muslims who are at the level of poverty would have not been there if they had recited this surah. So this surah is a great surah, a beautiful surah to memorize, but it is wrong to have this belief in it. It is wrong to have a number of wrong practices that a lot of the Muslims do. Baseless. It is not backed by authentic hadith. It is not definitely referred to by the Quran. Yet they think of such results and it all has no basis, none whatsoever. Like when the adhan, I was in Medina, just came back today. Alhamdulillah, I was blessed to stay there for 3 days. And in the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ, when the adhan is called and the muadhin says, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, I saw a lot of the Muslims from the subcontinent kissing their thumbs and wiping their eyes. And this is baseless. They think that if you do this, then you will not be blinded at any stage of your life, and trachoma or illnesses would not come to your eyesight. And this is baseless. There's nothing to support this. It's all fabricated hadiths, but people follow it blindly because they do not abide by the Quran and by the Sunnah. So Surah Al-Waqi'ah is a great surah, but it has no reality that it prevents poverty. As for Tahiyyatul Masjid, she's asking, if I enter the masjid 1 minute before the adhan, should I pray it? Sister, if you enter the masjid any time of the day or of the night, you must not sit down unless you pray the 2 rak'ahs. So even if you enter while the adhan is being called, you stand up until it finishes and you recite and repeat what after the muadhin says, and then you pray 2 rak'ahs and you sit down. Or you start praying the 2 rak'ahs while the adhan is being called and then you sit down. You cannot sit without praying these 2 rak'ahs. And any time of the day or the night, you are requested and required to pray these 2 rak'ahs before you sit down. So there is no time that it is forbidden for you to pray these 2 rak'ahs, except if the iqama is called. So if now they're going to pray, there is a difference between adhan, which is the general call for prayer, and the iqama, which is the call for the actual prayer to be prayed in seconds. So if the iqama is done, you cannot start the Tahiyyatul Masjid or the greeting, the 2 rak'ahs of greeting the masjid, because the Prophet told us that whenever the iqama is being called, then there is no prayer accepted except this prayer, which is the fard that is being called for. Regarding Sister Alma's question, she has a misunderstanding for how to prostrate on the palm of your hand, because she's saying that the middle part of my palm would not touch the ground unless she has something similar to a flat foot. I've never heard of a palm flat or a flat palm, but this is not meant to be. This is not intended. What is meant to be is that you put your palm on the ground. So your fingers are on the ground, your hand is on the ground. Now you don't have to squeeze it in so that every part of it would touch the ground. This is not possible. So that you would not cave your hand, and you would not, some people do this as if they're doing push-ups on their fingers when they prostrate. This is wrong. Some of them just simply make a fist and prostrate on it. This is wrong. You have to extend your fingers, pointing to the Qibla, and put your palm on the ground, not the entire thing, because this is not possible, and make sure that your forearm is cleared from the ground, because it's not permissible for you to put your elbow on the ground. The following question is from Research 13579, and the brother says, and he has a confusion. He wants to know if Allah Azza wa Jal tries and tests one of his servants for 10 years by blinding him because of the evil acts he used to do, and then he repents, and then he restores his eyesight, and then the man sins again, and he's blinded again, and he wants to know, how would we know if this is a punishment or a test from Allah Azza wa Jal? First of all, this is not up to you to decide whether it's a punishment or a test. When a calamity strikes, when a calamity falls upon a person, it is a test from Allah. Whether Allah Azza wa Jal is testing him and punishing him, or it's simply to test him, it wouldn't add any value for you to know. What you have to know is what to do when a calamity strikes. You have to be patient. You have to repent to Allah Azza wa Jal from all sins you have, because you don't know why this calamity is coming to you. Is it because of a previous sin? Is it because of previous sins? Abu Muslim al-Khawlani and other scholars of Islam used to say that when I sin, I can feel and sense the effect of my sin on my wife and on my ride. Meaning that he has so little sins that whenever he makes a sin, he can pinpoint and say, okay, this is because of the sin I did yesterday or last week. As for us, it's left, right, and center. We're overwhelmed by our own sins. So whatever happens to us, we cannot say that this is because of this sin or that sin or yesterday's sin, because our life is so indulged in sin. We are being targeted and we are being attacked from all over the place, and this is because of our shortcomings. So don't waste your time and don't confuse yourself trying to analyze, is this because of a test or is it a punishment? Because this would not help you. What would help you is to go to Allah Azza wa Jal, to run to Allah the Almighty, ask Him for forgiveness, do as many good deeds as you can, repent from all your sins, show Allah true and sincere remorse of the things that you have done, so that Allah would accept you. Brother Sakif Hassan has a very beneficial question. He says, what is your advice to the one who does a lot of dua, dhikr, and recitation of the Quran, but does not gain basic knowledge of aqeedah, fiqh, or understands the meaning of the Quran? This is a very important question because it gives you the difference between a person with knowledge and a worshipper. The majority of Muslims nowadays are worshippers at best. If we look at the best of them, they are worshippers. They pray a lot, they give charity, they may fast, but without knowledge. And they are at the brink of collapsing or going to bad and evil ways once they are truly tested, except those whom Allah Azza wa Jal would make them steadfast on the straight path. Why is that? Shaitan fears a scholar more than he fears 70 worshippers, because he can fool those who claim to be worshippers. But scholars, people with knowledge, it's very difficult for him to interrupt their knowledge and to interfere with their desires and lusts, etc. They have the knowledge that protects them with the grace of Allah Azza wa Jal. Look at the Khawarij. And they are the people who assassinated Ali ibn Abi Talib, may Allah be pleased with him, and with his sons Al-Hasan and Al-Hussein. He was the fourth caliph, and he was assassinated by one of the Khawarij, whom the Prophet explained to us the danger over the Ummah. And he warned us from their evil acts by saying and describing to us that they pray more than you pray, and they fast more than you fast, and they recite the Quran, but it does not exceed their throats. It's just plain mumbling, and it has no effect on their lives or on their understanding. And look what they had done. They killed one of the best 10 people to have ever walked the earth after the prophets and the messengers of Allah. We have a short break, and inshallah we will continue after that.
tension there? What about the North Korean nuclear program and the six-party talks? How will the tension there affect a relationship between U.S. and China?
They did that early in 1993, and after long discussion and negotiation, finally they stopped their program.
Will the world be able to stop this flow of secrets? Will it affect international relations? Or will there simply basic known facts for most experts and most diplomats?
And we don't know if there's more to come. It's information war.
Dear viewers, Huda programs can be watched in the English section of the in-flight entertainment directory on board all Saudi airline flights, domestic and international. Sit back, relax and enjoy watching Huda's entertaining and enlightening shows on your trip. Huda wishes you a safe and successful journey. Huda, a light in every home.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah and welcome back. I believe we have Sister Amina from Kuwait with us. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Assalamu wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
How are you doing?
I'm fine, Jazakallah khair. What's your question?
Okay, I have two questions. My first question is that we live in Canada, and whenever we went to the masjid, I noticed that people either, whenever they heard Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, in Yazan or in Tashahhud, they would keep their finger pointed and straight. So what exactly is the ruling on that? Are we allowed to do that?
Okay.
And my second question is about also living in the States and in Canada. Whenever we go to restaurants where the food isn't technically halal, but Muslims that go there, they say that it's okay to eat there because they say Bismillah, and then they go on to eat the food. And I've never done that, and I have friends that do the same thing, that they think that saying Bismillah will make the food okay to eat.
Is the food halal or you don't know?
Usually it's not it's places like KFC and McDonald's and stuff, and they don't say it's halal, but people still go there and eat and say Bismillah.
Okay.
And I wanted to know is that possible or not? And it's not that halal stores aren't available, because alhamdulillah there's big Muslim communities now there, and halal meat stores are available, but people say no, it's too much of a hassle. So they say it's just easier to go to these restaurants, say Bismillah, and eat.
I will answer your question, inshallah.
Okay, thank you.
Jazakallah khair. Going back to Brother Sakif Hassan, which deals with what is best and what is the ruling on this, we say it's very dangerous for people to engage in dhikr, recitation of the Quran, dua, without knowledge. Because, as stated earlier, they would be at the brink of collapsing or retreating or rejecting Islam once being tested with something that exceeds their knowledge. The first thing you have to do is to learn your aqidah, your creed. Who is Allah who you are worshipping? And are you worshipping Him as Allah instructed you to do and the Prophet had showed you how to do that? Or are you fabricating things, innovating, following those who claim to be scholars and eating your money, and they're being richer and richer while you are remaining where you are? You have to learn about the fiqh. Akhi, you have to know, is it this where I have to put my hands in prayer or under my belly, or I should not put my right over the left at all? What did your Prophet do, alayhi salam? Don't look at Tom, Dick or Harry. Don't look at Imam or Sheikh or so on, who they did this or do that, or they say this. Follow the Sunnah. You have knowledge, you have the means, follow the Sunnah, the authentic Sunnah. If you do this, you will be far better than what you are today. And above all, you have to understand the Quran that you're reciting. This is the miracle. And Allah Azza wa Jal has revealed this miracle to remain with us until the Day of Judgment. So understand what Allah wants from you. Don't just seek barakah from it without understanding it. Don't rely on people telling you this is halal or this is haram. Maybe this is the best what you could do, but if you know your abilities, you know your powers, so at least give a portion of the Quran a day, give it some concern, give it some attention by reading the interpretation, because if you remain on just simply making dhikr and dua, you may fall in the several traps of shaitan without knowing that. Sister Amina from Kuwait, she says, some of the people in Canada and elsewhere, when they hear the name of Allah Azza wa Jal, they do this with their finger. So when the mother said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, they do this, though they're not in prayer. And not only this, even in prayer, while they're praying, if the Imam recites an ayah with Man khalaqa as-samawati wal-ard, and they would do this, pointing to Allah Azza wa Jal. أَمَّا يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ, who would answer the one in need and desperate situations when they call him? Allah. He would point his finger like this. This is baseless. This has no basis, none whatsoever, and it falls under the category of innovation. The Prophet ﷺ used to point his finger when he was giving the sermon of Friday. Now a lot of the imams in the masjid, I've seen them in Friday, in the second khutbah, they would raise their hands and say, oh Allah, forgive all the believers, oh Allah, have this, or Allah, do this for us. And all the worshippers would raise their hands and say, Ameen, Ameen. This is not part of the Sunnah. The Prophet had never ever raised his hands, alayhi salatu wasalam, in Friday sermons, except when asking Allah for rain. And this is the only time he raised his hands, during the Friday sermon. Now if you're in the middle of the night in your house and you want to supplicate and make dua, yes, raise your hands. This is permissible. Between the adhan and the iqamah, you're in the masjid, you want to make dua, raise your hands. But don't raise your hands in locations where the Prophet did not neither instruct us nor did it himself, alayhi salatu wasalam. For example, after you conclude your prayer, after every fard prayer, people do this and they say things they even don't recognize or concentrate in, and then they wipe themselves, their faces, and leave. This is an innovation. Doing it every single fard is an innovation. Therefore, pointing your finger when hearing the name of Allah, this is not part of the Sunnah. And the second question regarding halal meat, and this is a very, very long topic. We can spend an hour or so discussing it. But if you look at the ahadith governing it, you would, and the verse of the Quran, of course, that mentions this, you would understand that Allah Azza wa Jal permitted us to eat any meat that was slaughtered by a Jew, a Christian, or a Muslim, providing that they did not, the Jews and the Christians, did not mention any other name than Allah. They did not say, in the name of Moses, or in the name of Jesus. If they did not say this, or we did not know what they had said, it is halal for us. For a Muslim, he has to say Bismillah. If he forgot to say Bismillah, then it is not lawful for us to eat from what he had slaughtered. Now, this is the main rule. If I go to the US or to Canada, now the country is a Christian country. So scholars like Sheikh bin Baz and bin Uthaymeen, may Allah have mercy on their souls, say that going to these countries, they are Christian countries. So it is lawful for you to eat without asking. Other scholars say, well, this is generalization and making life easy for people. But if you are a little bit of a practicing Muslim and you'd like to be safe rather than being sorry, and you know that the majority of the slaughterhouses in these countries, they do not slaughter. They sting the animal, they give it an electric shock that kills it, then they slaughter it. If you know this for a fact, not speculations or hearsay, if you know this for a fact, this is a dead meat, you cannot eat it. And if you don't know and you're doubtful, this is up to your level of virtue and piety and fear of Allah. So if someone says, listen, I have no idea whether they slaughter or not, and it's a Christian country, by default, can I eat? The answer is, generally speaking, yes, you can. But if you are a person of, not a knowledge, a person with fear of Allah, and an amount of righteousness that you believe it's a little bit more than anybody else, or more than most of the people, in this case, you should investigate. And if you investigated and found out that the majority do not slaughter, it's best for you to stop and not to eat from it. So if personally, when I travel, I don't eat from these places. I don't eat from places that are doubtful. I travel, most of my travels are to the UK, and they have the HMC and the HFA. And I would eat from both, because both of them claim to be halal, and this is enough for me. Now there are a little bit of technicalities. The HFA has a different process and procedure, not as strict as the HMC, and this one is much better. But to me, I would eat from both. Now, if I did not find food that is served by or certified by both organizations, can I go to KFC or to McDonald's or to whatever and eat, just depending on the claim that it's a Christian country and I can eat whatever they serve, and I say simply Bismillah? I wouldn't do this. I would never ever do this, because I will not die if I don't eat in these fast food chains. But if I see someone eating in them, I would not look down at him and say, what a bad Muslim you are. Because he has some sort of legitimacy in what he's doing. He has the fatwa backing him up. Now, the level of righteousness differ from one person to the other. Me thinking that I am, mashallah, I cannot look at people and force them to follow what I say, because they have other scholars and legit scholars who advise them to do this. So I believe, inshallah, that this is the answer to your question, Sister Amina. Brother Hamza from Saudi Arabia. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you, Sheikh?
Hayyakallah, bro.
So I have two questions.
Okay.
First question is that, for example, person got up in the morning and then he prayed all day, and in the night he saw that there was some impurity on his clothes. So should he repeat all his prayers, or what should he do? All the farad and everything?
Okay.
And the second question is that we went to Medina for only like one night or one day for Jum'ah prayer. And when we prayed this Jum'ah, our conductor said that you pray Asr also, 2 rakahs after the Jum'ah, because we have to go and we will not stop in the way.
Okay.
In the way. So what should we follow that, or
what did you do, Brother Hamza?
I prayed 2 rakat Asr.
So you joined Asr to Dhuhr?
Yes, Jum'ah.
To Jum'ah. Okay, now,
yes.
Okay, you have to pray Asr again now. After you finish the program, repray it, and I'll explain to you, inshallah.
Okay.
Hayyakallah, bro. Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Brother Hamza is asking about a person who found impurity after praying 5 prayers of the day and night. And he discovered that this purity resulted after waking up, after Fajr prayer. So what does he do? Well, we will answer this, inshallah, just after the break, so stay tuned.
The main concepts of Islamic economics, how is it different from the Western theories?
And the beauty about Islam is not that it just came as a religion to perfect the relationship of the servant of Allah with Allah, but also it came to perfect the relationship of the servant of Allah with others. The beauty about Islam comes and brings the interest of the public and the interest of the individual together.
How is Islamic banking different from the traditional banking system?
The concept of riba is that I lend you money, I give you a loan, in return that you give me back that loan with an extra at the top.
The idea of the stock market itself is halal or haram.
So these are the main conditions that the scholars put with regards of the share market.
Let's talk.
So this is something that you have to point out to them in the Bible.
Something which is, I think, very direly needed by the youth, which is staying firm on the truth.
This is just one of the greatest examples for me of how to control your anger.
Within the framework of being the cleanest religion, the cleanest jurisprudence, and in the meantime, the kindest religion to animals.
Watch Let's Talk with Khalil Amanet as he interviews guests and discusses a variety of topics, everything from youth issues to religious issues. Join us here on Huda TV.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. Brother Hamza had two questions. The first one regarding an impurity that he found usually in his pants. So he's asking what is the ruling on the 5 prayers that I had prayed previously. It depends. If this is a normal impurity, then your prayers are valid and you don't have to repeat them because you did not know about them. And the evidence backing this up, that the Prophet ﷺ once prayed with an impurity in his sandals, and the companions were praying behind him, and in the middle of the prayer he took them off and he continued, and at the end he told them that it was Jibreel, peace be upon him, who came to him and informed him in the middle of the prayer that there are impurities, there is a najasa on his sandals, so he took them off. And he did not repeat the prayer from the very beginning, which means that the first 2 rak'ahs where he did not know that he had an impurity were valid and correct. But if this impurity you saw in your clothes was a result of nocturnal emission, as a result of ejaculation, this means that you are in the state of major impurity. And hence, all the 5 prayers that you had prayed are invalid, because they can't be valid unless you take a full ghusl, a full total bath. And therefore, if it was semen that you found, and this is a trace of ejaculation or nocturnal emission, you have to take a full bath and re-pray these 5 prayers all over again. The second question regarding joining Asr to Friday prayers to those who are traveling. The majority of all scholars say that this is not permissible, because you are only allowed to join and combine Asr to Dhuhr prayer. And Friday is not Dhuhr prayer. It is not, because it is a prayer that is composed of 2 rak'ahs, while Dhuhr is 4. It's a prayer that is recited loudly while Dhuhr is silent. It is a prayer that can start an hour before Dhuhr time, while Dhuhr cannot be prayed except after the adhan. If the adhan is 12:30, you can pray Jum'ah prayer at 12 o'clock, 11:45, an hour earlier. This is all permissible because it is not Dhuhr. Therefore, the majority of scholars say that this is not permissible. So if you prayed Asr 2 rak'ahs after Jumu'ah, you have to repeat your prayer once again. We have a question from Sister Farhat Mumtaz. She has 4 questions. I don't know if the time allows us to answer them, but we will give it a go, inshallah. She says, the first question, in her family, whenever a man is interested in a girl, his aunties, sisters, his mother, they go to that bride-to-be, they check her out, and if they like her, they give her some clothes, some jewelry, and this is a form of engagement. So is this permissible as it is customs? Yes, it is permissible. There's no marriage contract taking place. It's just a form of engagement, looking at the girl. If they like her, they give her a ring, they give her a bracelet, they give her some clothes, as a form of gift, so that she knows that she was liked by them. And then it's her response to their proposal, and then the boy goes and sees her in the presence of her father or the brother, a guardian. This is all permissible, inshallah. The second question, regarding making wudu, she says that if I put under the faucet, under the tap water, my elbow and arm, and I just rub over my elbows, is this sufficient? The answer is no. If you submerge your whole arm in water, this is sufficient, because we are sure that the water had covered all of the place that should be washed, which is the arm. But putting your arm under the faucet and just wiping over the elbows, this is not enough. There are areas that you are not sure that the water had reached them, and therefore your wudu is not correct. If you do this once, this is sufficient, because the wetness of your hand would make sure that the whole area has been covered by water. And this is the most preferred and recommended, that you wipe all the organs when doing wudu. The third question, she is asking about her aunties and about the elderly in her house who are so tired to fast or under medication, and they don't make up for these days, and yet they even don't give kafara, expiation, for not fasting. The answer to this is quite easy. They're either going to recover or they are chronically ill, and the doctors say they will never ever recover and they'll never ever be able to fast again. If they will be able to fast again some point in the future, they do not give any expiation, and they must wait until they're better, and then they have to make up for the days missed, even if it was 4 or 10 or 20 years, as long as they will recover and will be better. But if they are chronically ill and the doctors say no way that they will ever be able to fast, in this case, at the end of Ramadan, they have to feed 30 or 29 poor person for every day missed, one person for every day missed in Ramadan. Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, when he got really old, this is what he used to do. He used to cook a big meal, and he used to invite 29 or 30 poor person, depending on how long Ramadan was, and he would have them eat until they're full, and this would do the job, inshallah. And her last question, she said, she's asking about her missed Ramadans. She said that she got her first menses when she was like 12, and now she's 20 years old, and she did not know that fasting while in her menses is not permissible, or you can say that she was shy to tell her people. So what is it that she must do? Well, we know that when a woman is in her menses, she is not allowed to fast and she is not allowed to pray. Once she is clean and pure from her menses, she does not make up for the prayers missed, but she must make up for the days of Ramadan missed. So if she is 20 years old now, and she has to calculate the past 8 years, how many days she fasted out of shyness, and she has to make them up because Allah did not accept them. If she says that, I don't know, she has to estimate. And we would tell her, okay, can it be like 3 days a month? She said, no, much more. So if we say, is it 15 days a month? She said, no, much less. So is it 7 or 8? She said, probably. Then she gives the average of 8 days per month, per Ramadan. 8 by 8, this is 64 days that she has to make up. Does she have to make them up in sequence? No. She can make them every Monday and Thursday whenever it is convenient for her. She has to make up for these missed days. And she's saying that my mother has the same problem and she did not make up for these days. Again, with her mother's illness and headaches, if there are times that she can inshallah be well to the extent that she would not have these headaches, attacks, and she would be able to make up, then she has to make up for these days. But if she is chronically ill and she's unable to fast at all, she has to give expiation, as was mentioned earlier for her aunts. Brother Abdul Majid, he's asking for advice, and he says, I have money in foreign currency and I change money in local currency and pay zakat. Is this permissible? Yes, it is permissible, providing that the money reached the nisab, which is the equivalent of 595 grams of silver, and that a whole lunar year has passed since you have gained this money and it is in your possession, or you lent it to someone, then you have to pay zakat at the end of the year. And the zakat is 2.5%. The second question is asking about his zakah is due in the month of Rajab, which is the 7th month of the Islamic calendar. Yet he gives it on the 9th month, which is Ramadan, seeking the blessing and barakah of Allah. Is this permissible? The answer is no. Postponing the zakat for 2 months so that it would be spent in the holy month of Ramadan is not permissible. You have to pay it on the spot in the month of Rajab. And this is a misconception that a lot of the Muslims have, thinking that we would only give her zakat in Ramadan. What about the remaining 11 months? People won't be in need, won't be in poverty? No, they'll continue to be in need and in poverty, and hence it is not permissible to allocate Ramadan only to pay for your zakat. And the final question, if the masjid is close to my house that I pray in, usually, but during Friday, I tend to go to a further masjid or to another masjid. Is this permissible or not, due to its cleanliness and to the air conditioner? Well, this is permissible, whether you go to it because of these two reasons, or because you like the recitation of the imam, or because the khutbah is far touching and moving to you than the one next to your home. It is permissible. But some people think that you should not leave the masjid in your neighborhood and go to somewhere else. It's a misconception, unless by doing this everybody would be abandoning the masjid and no one would pray in the masjid. No, in this case it's a different issue. Especially on Friday, a lot of the Muslims tend to go and to choose a masjid to their liking, and a masjid that would suit them best. Brother Junaid has a question about a hadith and the authenticity of the hadith. The Prophet says, alayhi salatu wasalam, 3 groups of people, Allah obliged Himself to help them: the mujahid in the cause of Allah, a worker to pay his debt, and the one who wants to marry to live a chaste life, a chastity life. And this was reported by Tirmidhi. Is this an authentic hadith? The answer is yes. This hadith is Hasan and it is authentic. However, the second person, the translation is wrong, where he says a worker to pay his debt. The word in the hadith is al-mukatab. And al-mukatab is a slave who wants to free himself by going to his master and saying, listen, I'll buy myself. How much you got to sell me for? He says $1,000. So he works outside and he gives his master $100 a week until he frees himself. So this is an authentic hadith. And I'm afraid that this is all the time we have. So until we meet next time, fi amanillah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Allah is my heart's speech. Your mercy is what I beseech. Keep in my heart your remembrance, and in your deen allow me to advance. Help me in my quest, permit me to pass the ultimate test.